Everyone, Petra here with Petra's Creative Plans. Thank you for joining me today. So today we are going to be making this beautiful little art journal. All right, so it has an elastic ribbon closure, and then when you open it up, I've got this beautiful sealed inside page, and I love this quote: "Perhaps this very instant is your time." And then we have loads of paper in here, and now this is the Canson Bristol paper. It is super smooth. This is perfect for watercolors, acrylic paints, my jelly gouache, any of my my Tombow markers, any of that. You can do junk journaling, art journaling, sketching. I mean, you can do anything with this paper. It's fabulous. It's nice and thick. And then at the back, we do have a little pocket page where you can store some of your ephemera and things like that. So if you're interested in seeing how I made this art journal step by step, sorry, I'm getting myself twisted here, step by step on how to make this beautiful art journal, then stay tuned. Okay everyone, so we're going to get started on making this art journal, and I'm just going to go over the supplies that I will be using. So first off, I have my cutter here. The one that I have happens to be by Fiskars. Any paper trimmer will work. You can use a ruler and scissors, or a craft knife, or a rotary cutter, whatever you prefer using. So I've got that. Okay, and then I also will be using this Bristol paper that I have. I like the thickness of it. I like the fact that I can use watercolor paints, markers, pencil, pretty much any medium I want on this paper. So this is what I will be using. I have my bone folder. I have my very well loved scoring board. You can see it's well used. I have some scrapbook paper. You can use any paper you like. You can use wrapping paper, any kind of decorative paper. I just happen to have these ones that are by Prima that I've had for a long time. They're not anything new. I don't even know if you can find them anymore, but there are some papers in here that I quite like for the look I'm going for. So I have those. I've got my craft knife, pencil, a pen, eraser, tweezers, a couple pairs of scissors, a couple of rulers. I have some fabric. You want something kind of strong and sturdy, so these are scraps I cut off of a pair of pants from my husband's that don't fit him anymore. I liked the color, and it's a really sturdy, strong fabric. Okay, you will need some sort of glue. I have the Eileen's tacky glue. I also have my Crocodile, so you will want something to punch some holes. You can use a hole punch, a single hole punch, but I like the Crocodile because it's got a smaller hole option on it, and I can set eyelets to reinforce the hole. And it can cut through a lot more options as far as how strong it is. And then I have a few little decorative elements. I've got these little book plates. I've got some different type colors of elastic. And these I had gotten at Michael's. I think they're supposed to be some sort of an elastic hair tie. I don't know. But I like using these for elastic closures. So I've got some different colors of browns there, so I can choose which one I want when we're done. I also have this kind of leather cord as a possible option. And then I've got some brads that will match the paper collections that I'm using if I want to add in some of those. And the only other things is I'm going to get a little plastic cup to put some of the glue in, and an old paintbrush. And we're ready to get started. So let me clean this up and we'll jump right in. Okay, so I've also grabbed my satin finish Mod Podge, which I want to use to seal my covers when they're all done. This is the little plastic cup that I'll be using to put my glue into, just so it's easier to get out. A couple of cheap old paintbrushes that I don't care about. Okay, so what I've done here, I'm going to move the scoreboard out of the way, just because it's kind of big and bulky. So I've got my sheets of the paper. You can use as many or as few as you like. I've pulled them out of the paper pad, and I've taken them all, I've lined them up, and I've scored halfway. So my paper is 9 by 12, so I'm just scoring it down at 6 inches on all of them. I've gone ahead and done that just to save some time. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the 9 by 12 papers, and I'm going to take one, and we'll fold it right along that crease. I'm going to take a second one, and we're going to fold it again right along that crease. Only this time I'm using the bone folder to get a really sharp fold on that. The one that we use the bone folder on, we are going to slip inside of the first one, get them lined up nicely, and now we will crease it with the bone folder. Okay, and so here is one signature. So it'll be 4 pages per signature. And we're going to continue to do that with all of these sheets until they are done. So I'm going to go ahead, pause the video, and I'll do all of these, and then we'll come back. Okay, so I've got all of my signatures put together. So again, that's just the 2 sheets of paper. Okay, and they're placed together. I've got them all here. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I have 11 signatures. So I've used 22 sheets of paper, and that is going to give me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sides per signature. So it's 88 pages, which is fantastic. Now, when you do this, your edges are not all going to be exactly the same. The ones that are inside are going to stick out a little bit more than the ones that are outside. If you wanted to, you could take these through a paper trimmer and trim them all down so that they were all exactly the same, or you can leave it like this. It doesn't bother me. I think it kind of adds a little character to it, so I'm going to leave my pages like that. For some people that might drive them nuts, and they can go ahead and trim them off. Now, another thing you may want are some clamps. I'll see if these ones are big enough. But what you want to do is you want to get these nice and tight together, get them lined up well. Okay, and we're going to want to clamp them to help hold them together. No, those are not going to be big enough. One moment. Depending on the type of paper you use and how thick you make yours, those may work. For this particular one that I'm doing, they don't. So let's try some of these binder clips. I think that will be better without damaging the paper. And so we're going to put one on the top as well as the bottom. Okay, like so, because we want to keep these nicely together. I do have this kind as well that I could put in the middle just to kind of help keep them together. Now what we're going to do is we're going to measure from the top and the bottom, because we want to measure where we're going to do our stitching. So I've got my ruler here. And so I am going to measure, I think my final stitch, I'm going to put it at the 1/2 inch mark, which means it will actually be about 0.75. And we're just going to run our pencil right across the back of all of those. Then we're going to do the same on the other end. Run it across there. And I think we're going to have 3 sections of stitches. So then from the bottom, I'm going to go up about 3, let's see, I'm just trying to think because this is 9, so not quite 3, so 2.75, that would make it exactly 3. So then I'm going to go up to the 2.5, I think, put a line there, and then we're going to put a line just slightly above that as well. Okay, and then we're going to go 2.5 again, put a line, and just slightly above that, we'll put another line. So now we have our marks where we know where we're going to do the stitches. And what I'm going to do on one of these ends, I'm just going to put a double line so I know, okay, that is going to be the bottom of my book. Now we need another supply that I forgot to mention. I'm forgetting a lot today. We're going to need some thread and a needle. So let me go grab that. Okay, I'm back. So I've got my sewing needle here. It's just a regular sewing needle. It has a little bit of a bigger eye in it for easier threading. And then I have just some white embroidery thread. So we're going to take off a pretty generous length of the thread. And this might be a little bit thick, so I'm going to separate these. Let's see. 1, 2. I'm going to separate them in half. So I want to separate 3 strands. Okay. So I have my 3 strands separated. And what I do is I hold on pretty firmly and I just slowly pull it. And I use my baby finger, my pinky finger, to kind of guide the thread to help stop it from getting too knotted. If it starts to knot, go back the opposite way and just fix your grip. Sometimes they'll knot on you, especially when you're trying to separate 3 strands at once. Of course, it's going to knot badly. So let's try it again. 3. We might have to separate 1 at a time. Let's try doing just 1 at a time. Usually, if I'm doing any kind of embroidery, I only separate 1 at a time. See, and it comes out way easier. So there we have 1. And we'll do 2. And then we'll do the 3rd. Okay, and then those 3 are ready to go if we need more. So now we'll just line up the ends of these threads. As best as we can. I just run it through my fingers to get it even. And we're going to thread this. I just kind of twist them together. You can get them wet. Sometimes that helps. I've got a good size eye on my needle, so I'm not too worried about it. Okay. So there we go. We've got it threaded. I'm not going to tie it in a knot. I just pulled it so that I've got a decent length tail on there. Okay, and I'm not putting a knot on that end either. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these signatures out of the clamps. We are going to take the first set of 2 papers. We are going to open this up. Okay, and you can faintly see the pencil mark. So this is the bottom because there's a 2. We're not going to use the very bottom one. We're going to go to the one above that. And here we are going to poke through both sheets of paper on that mark. Okay, now you can get kits to do this, but it's not hard. Just Be a little bit patient. And then you're going to pull your thread through, but you want to leave enough of a tail that you can tie it off, okay? And then you're going to come back up. It's easier if you poke the hole first from this side. Okay. So I'm just going to go along and poke the holes in here. Okay. So then we're going to come in from the bottom. We're going to pull that thread all the way through. I like to hold on to the tail so that I don't pull too much of it through. We're going to go back in that second hole right above it. Pull it through. And then we're going to come back in the bottom hole of the next set of 2. And then in again. And up through the single hole on the top. Okay, so now we've got that one threaded through. So then when the signature is closed, there you go. Okay, now we are going to take our next signature here. So I'm going to lay mine this way. I'm going to take my next signature. Same thing. We're going to start by poking all these holes. So on the bottom again, we're only poking the higher of the 2 marks because the second mark is just to remind us which is the bottom. Okay, and we're going to poke through all the rest of the marks. Okay, and then here, so we ended off at the top. So what we're going to do is we are going to put it through the top, going into the signature. Like this. Okay, and then we're just going to keep going the same thing that we did last time. Now we're going to pull those tight. Okay, so we want to pull that tight. Okay, and then here when we get, sorry, I got my pencil caught in there. So we want that good and tight there. Okay. And then this is where it can help to have a clip because we can hold that in place. And then here, before we go down into this next hole, we are going to take this and we are going to loop our needle under the stitch on this side. Get my thread in order here. We're going to pull that through just about all the way. We're leaving a little loop, which we're then going to take the needle through that little loop to make a knot. And we are going to pull that tight. Okay, and then we go down into the signature again. And at this point, you can take that clip off. So now we come back through that signature and continue on. Okay, back up this one. And here, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to pull it tight. And this is, and you can see it makes almost like a little X with a knot in the middle. And this is why I use 3 strands of the embroidery floss to give it that extra strength. Okay, and I'm going to bring this under that stitch. Form that little loop. Make our knot. Okay, and then we're going to go into the middle again. Back up the last one here. Okay, and you always want to check to make sure that everything's laying nice and flat on the inside. Now here, this is where we had started, so we can't loop it through, but what we can do with this end is tie an actual knot. Okay, so we're just going to tie a couple of tight knots here. Sorry, my fingers are not working. So we're going to tie a couple of tight knots. I'm going to do 3 for good measure. You don't want to do too many because you don't want it to be too bulky. And then this excess tail, I'm just going to trim off. And that is all we do. So now we just continue on again with the next signature. Make sure we're holding it the right way. So you want the 2 lines to be at the bottom. Again, don't lose your inside signature. So we're going to take our needle, we are going to go ahead and we are going to just poke through, not the first notch or pencil mark, but the one above it, because that first one marks that this is the bottom. Poke it through, and then we are going to poke through every other pencil mark all the way down. And you can do this with only 1 stitch or just 2. I like doing it this way because I feel like it gives it a little bit of extra strength with having the 3 sewn sections. Okay, so now here we're going to do the bottom. So we're going to come from the bottom, we're going to go in, making sure that we're going in through both sets of paper. Okay, so we've got it here. I'm going to pull it through. And it can be a little awkward at first, but it does get better, you know, the more that you do. Okay, and so this one, we're not going to be able to knot it on that end. We're just going to have to pull it tight. Okay, we're going to come find the hole. For some reason, there it is. Find the hole there. Pull this tight, tight, tight. Make sure everything's lined up nice and straight down here. Pull it tight. Get a clamp on there. Okay. And then again, we are going to take this and we're just going to go under the thread here. leaving that little loop, making the knot. And then we're going to go back down into the signature. Okay, we can take the clamp off, pull our thread through, and continue on. So I hope that you can all see this clearly enough. I had thought about using not white thread to show you guys, but I actually want to use this art journal and I didn't want colored thread in it, so that's why I didn't do it. Okay. And so this one is going to come up here and it will be the same thing. We will tie off a knot. Okay, and then we will just continue to add on the signatures till it's all done. If you run out of thread, you just simply do a knot like that where you stick it underneath the last stitch and you bring up a loop and you make a knot. And then you add on the next piece of thread in the same fashion. I'm going to go ahead and continue adding the rest of my signatures. All right, so I've gone ahead, I've gotten all of these sewn together and they're ready to go. Got a little thread down there. So now what we want to do is we want to get these nice and tight. So I'm going to use these binder clips. And I'm just going to pop them on, one on either end. Let's try on this side. My hands really don't want to work today. So we're going to go like that. I want to keep this middle portion really tight as well. Try another one. These ones are new, so they're very stiff. They haven't really been used. Okay. So I'm going to try to get it a little bit higher up, like that. All right. So what we're going to do now, I have those on. This one here, so when I have my paintbrush, I'm just going to go underneath as best as I can because we do want to keep those pretty tight. So I'm going to take my glue and I'm not going to pour it into the container right now. I'm just going to grab it out of the lid. And again, this is my Eileen's tacky glue. It's a little bit clogged in the lid, so we'll just go right out of the bottle. Any kind of PVA glue will work. And we're just going to take this and we're just going to brush it right along the entire back of the spine. Going right over those threads. Get those threads nice and covered. You don't want a glue that is too runny. You want a nice thicker PVA glue. Okay. It takes a bit longer to spread than a runny glue, but it works really good. We're just going to brush this all the way down, especially getting those thread ends. Okay, and then here, so you guys can maybe see, I'm just going to brush it as best as I can underneath that binder clip. And then same thing again. If it's not perfect under that binder clip, that's fine. And over the threads, I like to brush it from both sides to really make sure that those threads get coated. All right. Now that we've got that done, we're going to set this aside and we're going to let it dry. Close up my glue. Try to get that stuck down a bit. Okay, so we are going to let that dry. I'm probably going to let it dry overnight. That way I know that it's ready to go. We'll be back in a while. All right, so I'm back. It's the next day. This glue has dried, so we will take these clips off. Okay. Ooh, that one's tough. So it has dried. It's held nicely together. Okay, you can see all of the pages. They all work well. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take a strip of the fabric. We need to measure out the length that we will need. We also kind of want this to be a bit straighter, so we'll take our ruler and sew. This book is just shy, it's about 9 inches tall, okay? So we want to cut or mark our fabric for 9 inches. So we're going to start off by trying to get a bit of a straight edge here. I'm just trying to think what we'll mark. That probably won't show up on this fabric, but let me grab my jelly roll. Let's see. All right, I've got a white jelly roll pen. Let's see if this will work. So we just want to have kind of a straight base to start from. That works great. And we're going to measure up 9. We'll do that a couple of times just to keep it straight. One more time here. Okay. We will mark that off. Okay. And then, so the thickness of this so not quite 3/4 of an inch. So what we're going to do is I'm going to measure out. Okay, let's cut a straight edge here, or to cut, let's draw a straight edge here. And then we're going to measure from there. We want to have, I'm going to say 2.5. So if we make 5 inches, 2.5 would be the middle. Let's do that. So we're going to cut it at 5 inches. So we'll make another straight line where I made that 5-inch mark. Okay, so we're going to cut this piece of fabric out. Okay. So now we've got our fabric here cut out. It does not have to be perfect. What we're going to do is we are going to glue this onto here, okay? So that's why we marked sort of our middle here. So we're just going to kind of eyeball this. I do want to make a line for the middle, straight across, just to kind of help. Okay. And then, what did we say? It was not quite 0.75. So these will be kind of, I'm just marking 0.75 of an inch because it doesn't need to be exact, but this will just kind of help us determine when we're laying this down. Okay, so now what we want to do is we're going to put glue all along here, and we are going to be sticking it on to this fabric, okay? So it'll essentially be like that. So let's open this up. Again, I find it's just going to be easier for me if I pour a little bit of glue out. This Eileen's Tacky Glue is so thick. This is why I store it upside down typically. Okay, I'm going to screw this back on and I'm going to shake it downwards. Let's see if that helped. Just about. It's like molasses, it's so slow. Okay. And thick. And goopy. Alrighty. So, I've got the same brush I used yesterday. I'm gonna just take this and make sure that you're using a paintbrush that you don't care about, a cheap one, because the glue will often ruin it even if you think it's washed out all the way. So same thing, we're just going to put a generous amount of the glue all the way down the spine of our signatures. Okay, make sure everything is good and coated. And then now we are going to lay this down on the fabric. I'm going to just really push that down. Okay, we want to get that on there nice and tight. Okay. And again, we can use some of these clips just to kind of help hold it on. All right, got a couple of clips on there. We're gonna set that aside and we're gonna let that dry up nicely, okay? Now, in the meantime, we'll close up the glue and I'm going to stand it upside down. I'm just going to go rinse out my paintbrush and I'll be right back. Okay, so as this is drying, our next step will be to make the cover. And this brings me back to two supplies that I forgot to mention. I apologize. You'll need something for a cover. I have here some chipboard sheets. These are 12 by 12. You can use chipboard, you can use cardboard. If you have an empty cereal box, you can use the box board from that. It won't be quite as sturdy as the chipboard, but it will work. Any kind of a stiffer board. Cardstock typically is not strong enough. If you wanted to do a leather bound, you could do leather, okay? It's up to you. I'm using chipboard, so what we need to do is we need to measure the size that we're going to have our pieces, okay? So for the spine, I am going to say that we want it to be 0.75 of an inch. So we can mark that off. So, put my ruler, actually, I'll use this ruler because it comes in really handy for this kind of thing. So we're just going to go to 0.75 all the way down. Okay, there we go. And then the width of the actual book itself is 6 inches, and we want it a little bit bigger. So I think that I might actually do not quite 6 1/4. I'm just going to go 1 over, just slightly over. So, and I'm going to draw it right next to this one. So I'm going to do not quite 6 1/4. Okay, and we are going to draw a line here. And I'm going to move this up and we will do the same thing. And I know that I only need to be just over 9 inches tall, so I don't need to go all the way up. Okay, and then we need to do that a second time, which this won't be big enough to get both covers. That's why I have 2 pieces. We will cut this one the same way. This will be just over 6 inches. And I'm putting an X on the side that we're going to use because these ones are going to be very close in size, the 2 pieces. Okay, and then the pages should be 9 inches, just about, so we'll go slightly over 9 inches tall. So we will go this way. There's the 9. And again, I'm just barely going to go over the 9. Okay, and then same thing on these 2 pieces here. We're just going to barely go over that 9. Okay, so I'm going to go cut these pieces out and I will be right back. Okay, so I've got my 2 covers and my spine cut out here. Now we need to decide on paper for the covers. So I've got my paper pads and I already had some in mind. Okay, I really like this, but I only have 1 sheet of it, so it won't work. So we need to have enough that we can wrap it, so and these will fit perfectly. So there's this one, this one, and I lost the other one I had picked out, and this one. These are the ones that I'm deciding between. So if I take a piece of the scrap fabric, I can see kind of how that looks with it. I don't like it with that, so that one is out. So there's that one, and then there's this one. And I actually really like this one, so I'm going to go with this one. So I will need 2 sheets of this paper. Okay, there they are. And then for the inside cover, so sorry, this is the Time Traveler's Memories by Prima Marketing. It is an older paper pad, so I don't know if you'd be able to find it again. Now I want something to go for the inside. This is the Princess Prima paper pad. And there were in here, let me see now, where was it? Yeah, I think I'm going to go with this for the inside covers. So for this, no, we'll need 2. So I'm going to take out 2 sheets of that pattern. Okay. So I have my paper trimmer here. I'll put the inside sheets away for now. So for the outside sheets, you know, really, I'm probably going to just leave it that size, and I'll just trim off this top bit here. Okay, and then we'll do the same on this one. Okay. And so now what we'll do is we will flip the sheet over, and we are going to glue it on here. Okay. So we are going to cover this in our glue, and we're going to spread it out evenly. So I'm just going to glob some down onto there. We will grab our paintbrush here and just spread this out nice and evenly. You will have to work a little bit fast for this so that it doesn't dry. So I've got it spread all over. I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to do my best to center it. It does not have to be perfect. I'm going to lay this down. I'm going to get my brayer. I'm going to brayer this down. Get really good adhesion. And I know that it might kind of roll a bit. That's fine. So there you have it. We are going to do that a second time to the other cover. Actually, what I can do is I'll just show you the rest of the steps, and then I will finish this one off and do the next one off camera. So what I'm going to do is with my scissors, I'm going to cut the corners off, but I'm not going to go all the way up to the corner. I do want to kind of leave a little bit of paper there so it'll make a nice edge. So that's basically where I'm going to cut. So you can see I've left just a tiniest bit, because if you cut right against that corner, you're going to have a little bit of a hole. So it does help to kind of draw yourself a guide. And the easiest way I find is if I put my ruler right up to the corner and then draw it, that'll leave me just enough of a gap. Okay, let's cut those edges off. Just 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, and then we're just going to fold these up, and I like to pre-fold them. It just makes it a bit easier. We will do this on all sides. Okay, and then we're going to do the same process where we are going to glue these down. Okay, so I've got my glue here, and we are going to put glue all over this edge. Cover the entire thing here with glue. Okay. Once you've got a nice even coat, you will just flip that over, seal that down. You can use your bone folder to get a really nice crisp line. Again, take that brayer and really flatten that out. I like to do the opposite sides. Okay, get the brayer out. All right, so there is the first cover, okay? It is curling a little bit, but that will flatten out by the time that we're done. If you're worried about it, you can put something heavy over top of it as it dries, which is what I may do. So I've set that one to the side. I'm going to go ahead and we will do this one as well.